Good evening. My name is Jordan Curtis. I am currently a graduate student at Grand Canyon University. Outside of that, I am a professional teacher at Walter Hines Senior Page High School, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. My role as a teacher is an assistant teacher in the EC Special Education Department, where I do work firsthand with the EC teachers and OCS department at our school and district. This video is going to be describing the proper steps of an IEP, which is an individualized educational plan for students in the high school level. In this, we're going to be discussing the parent and guardian student involvement with the IEP. We're going to discuss also the referral process, which is two processes. We're also going to discuss the evaluation process and then the components of the IEP and the eligibility of the IEP. Once again, the IEP is an individualized educational plan. This is distributed to students who have disabilities that can affect them negatively in a classroom setting in general education. And so we take them out and we put them on individualized educational plans, whether it's in a different classroom setting or within a smaller setting for them to function, so that the success of their academics can increase, and it can increase their involvement and comprehension of educational things being distributed to the student in the classroom setting. Moving into the process of IEP, you have the referral, the pre-referral, and this is when the student is in a classroom setting and the teacher begins to notice that there are certain things that is beginning to negatively affect the student's academic success. At this point, the teacher is at will to send out an invitation to the parents or guardians of the student to say, hey, we've noticed this. I want to refer you to this. I want you to be informed. However, in the pre-referral process, the teacher must have to send the invitation in the pre-referral, and it must be accepted by the parents for there to be a meeting to be held with the teacher, the school psychologist, the parents, the student, and the administration and teachers. Within this process, this begins the referral process. So at the referral process is when you have the meeting. The meeting is going to go over all the discussion between the student's academics, grades, work ethic, classroom behavior, and even comprehension within the classroom. From that point moving forward, you begin to go into what is called the identification stage, and that's when the school psychologist takes the student through a number of tests, which could take up to 3 to 6 months to be fully evaluated before a student can even be put on an IEP. And at that point, that begins the identification and the eligibility of the student in the IEP. Eligibility is pretty much eligibility is when we determine if the student is deemed able for IEP or able for general education, or if they need to be in a different department. And at that point, that's up to the school psychologist to deem that answer. And with that, along with the testing, the teacher must provide data from months and observations to back up their theory or assumption as to why the student should be put on an IEP. Moving along from the eligibility, it becomes the components. So I've mentioned some of the components of the IEP, but they are, you must have the referral, the pre-referral, identification, eligibility, development of the IEP. And the development of the IEP is when we begin to categorize specifically the students' needs and what they need to focus on and what will help them the best academically in the classroom. After the development of the IEP, we have the implement of the IEP. And this is when we begin the process of when we put the student on the actual plan and begin to utilize that plan from the school year and transitioning from grade to grade or from general education to the EC class or special education classroom, whatever it is labeled as at your institution. The last step in IEPs, the process and components, is the evaluation and review. Now, IEPs have a quarterly process and you have an annual evaluation. Quarterly processes are seen as progress reports as if you would get in general education. And this is just something that goes out quarterly to give the parents information on their child's academic growth, success, or if there is failure or areas where the student is struggling. The annual IEP is held once a year with the psychologists, the administrators, the teachers, the parents, and the student. At this point, we begin to realize that this meeting is held so that we can evaluate if the student needs a new IEP plan, the same plan to be moved from IEP, or how we can go about with continuing the student's success within the program. And these are the proper steps involved with the IEP plan. This is the educational information of the IEP plan, and these are the components given to you about an IEP.